Do either of you find that there is something quintessentially different about these characters than in a Shakespearean character?
I do. These characters seem to have no interiority, if that's a word.
Okay.
You know, Richard III, Iago, you know, all of the classic Shakespearean villains spend a great deal of time kind of mucking about in their souls, or out there in the space between audience and actor, either justifying or celebrating their villainy. Even Claudius, who is a very covered up character, has that one great scene where he tries to pray, where Shakespeare says, look inside this man. We don't do that here. You know, at one of the key moments in the story, where the commander is robbed of his weapon by a peasant, and in a way that's the single incident that kind of starts the ball rolling, because it says to the inhabitants of Fuente Ovejuna that he's vulnerable, that it's possible.
Right.
I say 3 lines after Johnny Goad leaves the stage with my crossbow. I say, I'm going to be revenged on him. Why do I feel so shamed? And I walk off. Now, Shakespeare would have taken that and guided you through his interiorness. Here you have to infer what the characters are all feeling and what they're going through their actions. It's what you were saying, Robert. It's a play about action all the time, which to me, I mean, it connects back to the commedia plays and those kinds of situational dramas that sprung up out of Italy and went into France and went into Spain, and we see them in England. You know, the morality plays. There's an aspect of this world, I think, that's much closer to that. It's emblematic. When a king comes on, you know they're a king, and they talk like a king, and they act like a king.
Their functions are more clearly defined. It's function over anything else, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard with Mengo, I think he's defined as a clown.
Yeah.
But in this, I'm finding, I think he functions more as a fool.
Yeah.
Than a clown.
He's a philosopher clown.
Yeah. So he's a clown, like he's in the world, but there's a certain, he takes an arm's length at it and discusses it.
Yeah.
Thinks about it a lot and discusses it with the people around him. So in that way, it's somewhere between a clown and a fool.
What's very different about this play and this world and Shakespeare's world that I found the most kind of in my face from when I read it and working on it is it concerns itself almost absolutely with the world that Shakespeare kind of went out of his way to avoid. I mean, it's so revolutionary in Henry V when those common soldiers discuss the war and what it costs them as individuals. You know, we think that's a great scene because it's so rare in Shakespeare. Here, Fuente Ovejuna is really, as Lawrence, our director, keeps talking about, the leading character in the show is the whole town. He spends almost all of his time dealing with the humanity of these characters, and when he brings on Ferdinand and Isabella, they're very iconic figures. Their humanity is subjected to their function, as you were talking about, and Guzman suffers by that a little bit as well. But the characters in the town, the peasants, are way more rounded than the average peasant that you might encounter in Shakespeare. There's none of that "Hello, Master Snot" kind of acting. You know, these guys. You know, the peasants come on and you expect them to be talking like Shakespearean peasants about nonsense, and they're discussing philosophy and the nature of love. I mean, it's revolutionary. And to me, the key scene in this play that makes it kind of so modern for us, and I think why anyone is still sort of interested in this play, is that scene when Laurencia, as the sole woman, comes into this room full of men and says, "Shame on you for not protecting me. Shame on you for perpetuating this world where men have all this privilege and we don't. And why can't you? Shame on you." She shames them. It's still a startling document to read.
Is it almost an early feminist?
Absolutely. Yeah? I think at least that moment is.
Yeah. That moment is.
Because how she's able to galvanize them into such immediate and direct action is remarkable. Is really remarkable.
Yeah. And I mean, the title of the play, Fuente Ovejuna, means sort of the well of the sheep, right? And presumably there's a bit of an implication that the villagers have been sheep-like up to this point. They've kind of put up with Guzman, and it takes a woman basically challenging them to take a stand that pushes them into rebellion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, fascinating.
To take a very, very close look at themselves, to really hold up a mirror to them.
Yeah.
And say, this is what's happening,
sure.
and this is what you're doing,
sure.
and we're all going to suffer as a result of it. It's very interesting to watch the men's reactions in that scene. Yesterday, as we were running through it, of course, there's this incredible amount of information and emotion coming from Laurencia. But to see how that plays through the men, very interesting thing happening there.
That's that essential quality of acting, which is knowing how to listen, right? When you're not speaking.
Yes. And yes, and how does that play through oneself, or through the character that you're? What is she? How is what she is saying galvanizing you to take the next step?
Right. We may have answered this question already, but it is one that's come in. What interested you most in being in this play? I mean, you've given me a lot of stuff, but was there, when you first read the script, say, was there something immediately that struck either of you about it, Robert?
I liked what I took to be the very sort of simple morality of it.
Yeah.
Just a series of injustices that are corrected.
Yeah.
And I thought it speaks very clearly, I think, to a modern audience. In that you can, people talk about self-empowerment and all of that kind of stuff, but that you can change things if you have the courage to stand up and speak for yourself and speak for those around you who maybe cannot necessarily speak for themselves. So, I mean, that's what I mean about the simple, I don't know if I phrased that right, but the simple morality of it. And that it is possible to change things that don't sit well with you.
Yeah, it's a very inspiring piece, isn't it? In many ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, your problems are not insurmountable. It's nice to believe that. Anyway, I think that's what the play says to me.
Scott,
although I wouldn't advocate the action that they take in the play.
Well, that's what I like. That's what I liked about the play is how complicated it is morally.
Yeah.
That it's not simply romantic or politically naive.
Right.
You can see the influence that the Golden Age writers and this play in particular must have had on Brecht. It feels like one of those socialist kind of political plays, but like I said, it's that third act, I think, is very, very complicated and very astute in bringing the human spirit through love and through connection back into some kind of order. So it's not. You're not left with anarchy. You're not left with violence. You're left with restoration.
Right.
It's a healing feeling at the end of the play.
That took me by surprise about it in the third act. Once revenge has been taken and that they think they've restored order, what the cost of that?
Yeah, it's not a Charles Bronson movie.
No,
it doesn't end with that kind of simplicity.
Yeah. Okay, this has been fascinating. I think we could probably go on with this for.
You have to come and see it. It really is a cool play.
It's fantastic. Fabulous piece. Someone asked actually how we went about selecting, and I think in a sense you answered that in that we've never done a play from the Spanish Golden Age before, so it was high time. Anyway, we'll be back next week. We'll be talking about The Taming of the Shrew, and guests will be Lucy Peacock and Irene Poole. So for now, thank you very much for watching. My thanks to both of you gentlemen for being so articulate and wonderful, and we'll see you next week.